She cancels your date 30 minutes before you're supposed to meet again. You're frustrated, but you tell her, no problem. We'll reschedule because you don't want to seem difficult. 3 weeks later, she's doing the same thing, and you're wondering why she doesn't seem to respect your time or effort. Here's what I wish someone had told me years ago. The way people treat you is directly related to the boundaries you set and enforce, not the boundaries you talk about, the boundaries you actually maintain through your actions. Today, I'm sharing the 5 specific boundaries that transformed how women see and treat me. These aren't about being controlling or difficult. They're about having enough self-respect to expect respectful treatment in return. 1. The time boundary. Your schedule matters. The first boundary that instantly increases respect is protecting your time like the valuable resource it actually is. Most men give their time away freely, constantly rearranging their schedules to accommodate others and wondering why their time isn't valued in return. I learned this lesson through painful experience with someone I was dating named Rachel. She had a habit of making plans and then changing them at the last minute. Dinner reservations would become, let's just order pizza. Weekend trips would become maybe next weekend. Date nights would be postponed because something more important came up. Initially, I thought being flexible showed that I was easygoing and understanding. I'd rearrange my schedule, cancel other plans, and accommodate whatever she needed. But instead of appreciating my flexibility, she began taking it for granted. My time became less important than anyone else's in her life. The turning point came when she canceled our dinner plans 2 hours beforehand because her friend wanted to go shopping. Instead of saying no problem like I always did, I told her, I understand things come up, but I had cleared my evening for this. If going to make plans, I need to know they're actually happening. Her response surprised me. Instead of getting defensive or angry, she apologized and said she hadn't realized how often she'd been doing it. From that point forward, she became much more considerate about our plans and my time. Here's what protecting your time boundary looks like in practice. When someone asks for your time, you consider whether it aligns with your priorities and existing commitments before automatically saying yes. When plans are made, you treat them as commitments rather than loose suggestions. When someone repeatedly disrespects your time, you address it directly rather than silently resenting it. This doesn't mean being inflexible when genuine emergencies arise. It means distinguishing between real emergencies and simple lack of consideration. It means showing through your actions that your time has value and expecting others to treat it accordingly. 2. The emotional boundary. You're not her therapist. The second boundary that dramatically increases respect is refusing to become someone's unpaid therapist or emotional dumping ground. Many men think that being a good listener means accepting unlimited emotional labor from women. But this actually creates resentment rather than respect. This boundary became clear to me through my friendship with Sarah, who would call me whenever she had relationship problems, work, stress, or family drama. I thought being available for these conversations showed that I cared and was a supportive friend. But over time, I realized these calls were always one-sided. She'd vent for hours about her problems. But when I needed support or wanted to discuss my own challenges, she was mysteriously busy or would quickly change the subject. I was providing emotional support without receiving any in return. And instead of feeling grateful, she seemed to see me as someone whose primary function was to manage her emotional state. The relationship had become unbalanced with me giving emotional energy and her taking it without reciprocation. The shift happened when I started setting limits on these conversations. When she'd call upset about the same recurring problem for the 10th time, I'd listen for a reasonable amount of time and then say something like, "It sounds like this situation is really bothering you. Have you considered talking to a counselor about strategies for dealing with it?" 3. The communication boundary respect in all interactions. The third boundary that immediately increases. Respect is insisting on respectful communication in all your interactions. This means not tolerating being yelled at, insulted, dismissed, or spoken to in ways that you wouldn't speak to others. I learned this boundary's importance during a heated argument with someone I was dating. We disagreed about something relatively minor, but instead of discussing it calmly, she started raising her voice and making personal. attacks about my character. In the past, I would have either escalated to match her energy or absorbed the disrespect in the name of avoiding conflict. Instead, I calmly said, I want to resolve this disagreement, but I'm not going to continue this conversation if we can't speak to each other respectfully. Let's either discuss this calmly, or we can revisit it when we've both cooled down. She was initially shocked by my response because previous men in her life had either matched her aggressive communication style or simply taken the abuse. My calm insistence on respectful communication forced her to consider her approach and adjust her behavior. This boundary isn't about controlling how others express themselves. It's about controlling what you'll accept in terms of how you're treated. People can feel however they want and express their emotions however they choose, but they can't express those emotions through disrespecting you. If you maintain this boundary, here's how the communication boundary works in practice. When someone raises their voice at you, you lower yours and speak more calmly, not to be passive-aggressive, but to model the communication style you expect. When someone makes personal attacks during disagreements, you address the behavior directly rather than defending against the attacks. 4. The availability boundary. You have your own life. The fourth boundary that significantly increases respect is maintaining your own life, interests, and social connections instead of making any one person the center of your universe. This means not being available 24/7 and not abandoning your own goals, friendships, and activities for romantic relationships. This lesson came through watching my friend Mike completely lose himself in a relationship. When he started dating Lisa, he gradually stopped hanging out with friends, quit the basketball league he loved, and made himself available to her at all hours. He thought this level of devotion would make her feel special and loved. Instead, she began to lose respect for him and ultimately ended the relationship, telling him he had become too clingy and dependent. The tragedy was that Mike's devotion, rather than being appreciated, was seen as neediness and lack of personal strength. By making her his entire world, he had actually made himself less attractive and less respectable in her eyes. 5. The self-respect boundary, walking away when necessary. The fifth and most important boundary is the willingness to walk away from any relationship or situation that consistently violates your other boundaries or fails to meet your standards for how you deserve to be treated. This is the master boundary that makes all the others effective. This boundary is the hardest to maintain because it requires being willing to lose someone rather than accept poor treatment. But it's also the most powerful because it demonstrates ultimate self-respect and makes others understand that your boundaries aren't negotiable suggestions. They're firm standards. I learned this boundary through a relationship that tested every other boundary I had established. Despite my clear communication about my standards, this person continued to disrespect my time, use me for emotional support without reciprocating, communicate disrespectfully during disagreements, and demand constant availability while offering little in return. For months, I tried to address each issue individually, thinking I could fix the problems through better communication or clearer boundary setting. But I finally realized that someone who consistently violates your boundaries after you've clearly communicated them isn't someone who respects you or the relationship. The moment I became willing to walk away, genuinely willing, not as a manipulation tactic, but as a recognition of my own worth, everything changed. Either people started respecting my boundaries because they realized I would actually enforce them, or they revealed that they weren't capable of respectful relationship, in which case walking away was the right choice anyway. Remember that some people won't like your boundaries, and that's valuable information. The right people will respect your standards and rise to meet them. The wrong people will resist your boundaries and reveal that they're not capable of the kind of relationship you deserve. If this video helped you understand the connection between boundaries and respect, hit that subscribe button and share your experiences in the comments. Which boundary do you struggle with most? How have boundaries affected your relationships? And remember, you teach people how to treat you through what you accept. Start accepting only the respect you deserve and watch how quickly others learn to provide it. Respect yourself at first. I discovered this with Maria, who had This incredible energy that could light up any room. One night, as she was getting ready and I was watching her completely mesmerized, I shook my head and said, "You're nothing but trouble." The smile that spread across her face told me everything. Trouble works because it acknowledges her power. You're admitting she has an effect on you. Women want to feel like they can move and influence the men they're interested in. Shows your strength. By calling her trouble, you're indicating you can handle her intensity, her complexity, her challenging aspects. Weak men are intimidated by strong women. Strong men find them irresistible, creates playful tension. There's something exciting about being someone's trouble. It suggests passion, intensity, and magnetic attraction rather than boring predictability. Implies irresistibility. When you call someone trouble, you're saying you can't help but be drawn to them despite knowing they'll complicate your life in the best possible ways. Never use it when you're actually angry or when she's genuinely causing problems. This should feel like appreciation for her complexity, not criticism of her behavior. Women love being seen as irresistible forces rather than easy, predictable partners. Trouble acknowledges that loving her is an adventure, and the right woman will find that incredibly attractive. 3. The protection nickname Little One. The thick, odd, forbidden nickname taps into the feminine desire to feel protected and cherished by someone strong enough to handle that responsibility.